Commander Vextel stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, watching the third planet of this small solar system grow larger on the main screen. The blue and green world looked peaceful from this distance, too peaceful. After 17 successful conquests, he had learned to read the signs of primitive civilizations. This one seemed almost perfect. "Status report," he commanded in his deep voice. 62 ships in formation, sir," replied his communications officer. "All systems operational. The fleet is ready for standard colonization procedures." Vextal nodded. Standard procedure had worked perfectly on 17 worlds. Send the ultimatum. Wait for surrender. Process the natives. Strip the planet of resources. Move on to the next target. The Zephrian Empire had grown strong using this simple method. Begin scanning the planet. I want to know everything about these creatures called humans. Far below on Earth, Admiral Jack Morrison sat in his command chair deep beneath the mountains of Colorado. The North American defense grid hummed quietly around him. Banks of computers showed the alien fleet approaching, stacks of 2 ships. More than they had hoped for, but not more than they had planned for. "Sir, the alien fleet has entered scanning range," reported Lieutenant Kate Williams from her station. "They're conducting deep surface scans." Morrison smiled grimly. "Let them. Look, make sure they see exactly what we want them to see." The aliens would find cities full of people. They would find armies with primitive weapons. They would find a world that looked helpless and unprepared. They would find exactly what humanity had spent 70 years preparing them to find. "Any word from the other defense grids?" Morrison asked. "Europe, Asia, and Australia all report ready status. The Pacific Fleet is in position. All stealth assets are dark and waiting." Morrison nodded. Everything was proceeding according to plan. A plan that had been in motion since 1947, when the first crashed alien scout ship had been recovered in New Mexico. The world thought it was a weather balloon. The truth was much more interesting. Dr. Lisa Kane walked quickly through the corridors of the Xenobiology Division in Washington, D.C. Her team had been working around the clock since the alien fleet appeared. Not to prepare defenses, but to finalize the trap they had been building for decades. "Dr. Kane, we have the final communication intercepts," said her assistant, Dr. Bobby Martinez. Lisa took the tablet and read the translated messages. The aliens were discussing Earth like it was a business transaction. Population estimates, resource calculations, processing timelines. They had done this so many times before that they had turned conquest into a routine. "They're planning to relocate the entire population to labor camps," Lisa said. "Standard procedure for them? They've done this 17 times before." "What about resistance?" Bobby asked. "According to their files, most species give up after the first demonstration of force. The ones that don't are simply eliminated." Set down the tablet. They have no idea what they're walking into. The aliens had studied 17 other worlds, but they had never encountered a species like humanity. They had never met a species that could lie on a planetary scale. They had never faced a species that could prepare for war while appearing to prepare for peace. President Helen Cross stood in the Oval Office, looking out at the protesters gathered on the White House lawn. Some carried signs demanding surrender. Others called for immediate nuclear strikes against the alien fleet. All of them were playing their parts perfectly. "Madame President, the alien ultimatum has arrived," said her Chief of Staff, Dan Thompson. Helen read the message on the secure tablet. "Surrender unconditionally within 72 hours. Submit to processing and relocation. Comply or face orbital bombardment." The same ultimatum they had sent to 17 other worlds. "Draft a response," she told Dan. "We need time to consider their generous offer. Ask for a meeting with their representatives." "Ma'am, are you really going to negotiate?" "With them?" Helen smiled. "Of course not. But they expect us to try. Every species tries to negotiate. We need to look exactly like every other species they've conquered." The meeting would happen. Earth's leaders would plead for mercy. The aliens would make small concessions to appear reasonable. Then they would begin the conquest, just like always. Except this time, the prey had teeth. Captain Ryan Webb stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching his crew prepare for what they thought was a reconnaissance mission. The Defiance was humanity's newest stealth destroyer, invisible to most. Sensors and armed with weapons the aliens had never seen before. "Captain, we're receiving final orders from Fleet Command," reported his communications officer, Sergeant Lucy Brown. Ryan read the orders carefully. "Shadow the alien fleet, observe their tactics, report on their capabilities. A standard reconnaissance." Or so it appeared. The real orders were written in code that only he could read. "Set course for the alien fleet," he commanded. "Engage stealth systems. We're going to get a close look at our visitors." The Defiance moved silently through space, its advanced engines producing no detectable signature. Ryan's crew believed they were gathering intelligence. They had no idea they were actually delivering the first component of humanity's real response. Back on the Eternal Dawn, Vextel studied the reports from his science teams. The humans had primitive nuclear weapons, but nothing that could threaten his fleet. Their space program was limited to a few small stations and mining operations. Their military used chemical propulsion and metal projectiles. They were exactly what they appeared to be. "Sir, we're receiving a response from the planet," announced his communications officer. Vextel read the human message. They were asking for negotiations. They wanted to discuss terms. They were begging for mercy, just like every other species before them. "Send our standard response," he ordered. "We'll meet with their representatives in 48 hours. One ship may approach our fleet." It was always the same. The primitives would send their leaders to plead for their people. Leaders would offer resources, technology, even slavery in exchange for being allowed to live. Then they would accept the inevitable and surrender. After that processing would begin, Colonel Amy Rodriguez sat in the briefing room beneath the Pentagon, listening to her final mission orders. She would lead the negotiation team to the alien ship. She would appear to surrender on behalf of all humanity. She would do everything possible to look defeated and helpless. "Remember," said the briefing officer, "you are not just negotiating. You are gathering intelligence. Every detail about their ship, their technology, their psychology. Everything you learn will be used against them." Amy nodded. She had trained for this mission for 20 years. She spoke for Earth languages and had memorized every detail of human culture that might interest the aliens. She knew how to appear weak while actually being strong. She knew how to surrender while secretly attacking. "What about the rest of the team?" she asked.
"Hand-picked volunteers."
"Each one has spent decades preparing for this moment. They know the risks." Amy understood. This was not a negotiation. This was the opening move in a war that had been planned for 70 years. The aliens thought they were conquering a primitive world. They had no idea they were walking into the most sophisticated trap in human history. The 72-hour countdown began. To the aliens, it was simply standard procedure. To humanity, it was the final phase of the longest military operation in human history. Soon, the hunters would discover they had become the hunted. The Eternal Dawn continued its approach to Earth, carrying 62 ships full of confident predators toward a world that had been waiting for them to arrive. The blue and green planet below looked peaceful and helpless. But appearances, as the Zephrians were about to learn, could be very deceiving indeed. The meeting took place exactly 48 hours after the alien ultimatum.
"Oh."
Colonel Amy Rodriguez sat in the shuttle as it approached the massive alien mothership. Around her, 5 other officers maintained perfect composure. To any observer, they looked like defeated military leaders going to surrender their world. "Remember the plan?" Amy whispered to her team. "We are frightened. We are desperate. We'll do anything to save our people." The shuttle docked with the alien ship with a metallic clang that echoed through the hull. Amy stepped out first, followed by her team. The aliens were waiting for them. They looked exactly like the intelligence reports had described. Tall, gray-skinned, with large dark eyes and thin limbs. They moved with the confidence of a species that had never lost a war. "I am General Corthavel," announced the lead alien. "You will follow standard processing procedures." Amy bowed her head. "General, I am Colonel Rodriguez. I come seeking mercy. For our people," Corthal made a sound that might have been laughter. "Mercy is not part of our procedures. You will provide us with complete information about your planet's resources and population centers. Then your people will be relocated to appropriate facilities. What kind of facilities? Amy asked, playing her role perfectly. Labor camps? Species will work to extract resources from your planet. Those who work well will be fed. Those who do not will be eliminated. Amy felt anger rise in her chest, but she kept her face neutral. And if we refuse, then we will demonstrate our weapons. On your largest cities? After that, you will cooperate. The aliens led them through the ship's corridors. Amy memorized every detail: the layout of the passages, the location of critical systems, the number of guards. Everything she saw would be transmitted back to Earth through the microscopic devices hidden in her clothing. Down on Earth's surface, the aliens had begun their colonization procedures. Massive ships descended from orbit and established processing centers in major cities. Dr. Peter Clark stood in what used to be Central Park in New York City, watching the aliens set up their equipment. Dr. Clark, said an alien technician, through a translation device, you will assist us in cataloging this planet's biological resources. Peter nodded eagerly. Of course. I want to help. I want my people to survive. The aliens seemed satisfied with this response. Peter had spent months learning how to appear cooperative while secretly undermining everything the aliens did. Every sample he gave them was carefully chosen. Every piece of information he provided was designed to lead them away from humanity's real assets. These are the primary food sources for your species, Peter explained, showing the alien a collection of plants. And these are the locations of the largest agricultural centers. The alien recorded everything carefully. It had no way of knowing that Peter was actually showing them decoy farms and modified plants that would poison any alien who tried to eat them. The real agricultural centers were hidden underground, protected by systems the aliens couldn't detect. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Commander Steve Parker was making his third supply run to the alien processing station in what used to be Los Angeles. His cargo ship was filled with food and medical supplies for the human prisoners. At least, that's what the aliens thought. Cargo manifest checks out, said the alien guard as Steve's ship docked. Proceed to unloading Bay 7, Steve nodded, and guided his ship to the designated area. The aliens had established a routine. Human ships brought supplies. Human workers unloaded the cargo. The aliens supervised from a distance, confident in their control of the situation. What they didn't know was that every supply run carried more than food and medicine. Hidden in false compartments were components for weapon systems. Disguised as medical equipment were communication devices. Buried in food containers were microscopic machines that would soon begin their real work. Thanks for the supplies, said Linda Hayes, one of the human workers in the processing center. She had been captured 3 weeks ago and was now a trusted worker in the alien facility. Just doing my job, Steve replied, playing his part. How are you holding up? Better than expected, Linda said. The aliens aren't as smart as they think they are. Steve nodded. Linda was actually a demolitions expert who had volunteered for this assignment. She had spent the last 3 weeks learning the layout of the processing center and identifying its weak points. Soon, she would put that knowledge to use. The aliens were making good progress with their colonization. They had established processing centers in 50 major cities. They had begun relocating human populations to work camps. They had started extracting resources from the planet. Everything was proceeding according to their standard procedures. General Cordoval studied the daily reports from his command center. The humans were cooperating better than expected. Most species took months to fully submit. The humans had accepted their fate in just a few weeks. Sir, reported his intelligence officer, we have completed our analysis of human military capabilities. They possess nuclear weapons, but nothing that can threaten our fleet. Their space-based assets are minimal. Their ground forces use primitive projectile weapons. Excellent, Corthovel said. Begin Phase 2 of the operation. Start full resource extraction. The aliens activated their massive mining equipment. Giant machines began stripping metals from the Earth's crust. Atmospheric processors started converting the air to something more suitable for Zephrian biology. Ocean harvesters began extracting minerals from the sea floor. Dr. Lisa Kane watched the alien machines work from her position in the Washington, D.C. processing center. She had been captured along with other government scientists and was now forced to help the aliens understand human technology. Dr. Kane, said her alien supervisor, explain the function of these human communication networks. Lisa studied the equipment the aliens had brought her. This is our internet system. It allows humans to share information across the planet. We will need to control this system to prevent resistance activities, the alien said. Of course, Lisa agreed. I can help you understand how it works. What the alien didn't know was that Lisa was actually introducing viruses into their monitoring systems. Every time they connected to human networks, they unknowingly downloaded code that would eventually give humanity complete access to their computers. Maya Johnson sat in her cell in the Chicago Processing Center, apparently reading a book. In reality, she was coordinating resistance activities across the entire planet. The book was actually a quantum communication device that looked like ordinary paper to alien scanners. Status report from European cells, she whispered to the device. All positions ready, came the reply. Weapons are in place. Personnel are prepared, awaiting final orders. Maya smiled. The aliens thought they had captured Earth's communication networks. They had no idea that humanity had developed entirely new ways to stay in contact. Every resistance cell was connected. Every weapon was positioned. Every person knew their role. Report from Asian cells, Maya continued. Ready for operation. The aliens have no idea what's coming. The reports were the same from every continent. Humanity was ready. The trap was set. The aliens had walked into exactly the position humanity wanted them in. Captain Ryan Webb watched the alien fleet from his position aboard the Invisible Defiance. His crew had spent weeks observing the aliens, learning their patterns, mapping their defenses. They thought they were gathering intelligence for a future attack. Captain reported his weapons officer, we have complete tactical data on all 62 alien ships. Excellent, Ryan said. Continue monitoring. What his crew didn't know was that Ryan had been doing more than just watching. Every night, small drones launched from the Defiance had been attaching devices to the alien ships. The devices were so small that the alien sensors couldn't detect them. But when the time came, they would be more than sufficient. The aliens continued their work, confident in their success. They had conquered 17 worlds using the same methods. They had never encountered serious resistance. They had never faced a species that could plan on this scale. But humanity had been planning for this moment for 70 years. Every move the aliens made had been anticipated. Every weakness they revealed had been cataloged. Every advantage they thought they had was actually a trap. The deception was nearly complete. Soon, the aliens would discover that they had not conquered Earth. They had simply walked into the most sophisticated ambush in galactic history. Dr. Lisa Kane stood in the alien research facility, watching the Zephrians examine human blood samples under their advanced microscopes. She had been working with them for 3 weeks, pretending to help them understand human biology. What they found today would change everything. Dr. Kane, said the lead alien scientist, Vexinar, these results are most unusual. Lisa moved closer to the display screen. What do you mean? Your species has genetic markers we have never encountered before. Your DNA contains sequences that should not exist in a naturally evolved species. Lisa kept her face neutral, but inside she was smiling. The aliens had finally discovered what humanity had been hiding for 70 years. Humans weren't just another primitive species. They were something much more dangerous. I don't understand, Lisa said, playing dumb. Kind of sequences? Vexinar pulled up more data on his screen. Your species shows signs of rapid evolutionary adaptation. Your immune system can adapt to new threats in days instead of generations. Your neural pathways can rewire themselves under extreme stress. This is not natural evolution. Maybe we're just lucky, Lisa suggested. No, Vexinar said firmly. This level of adaptation is only possible through genetic manipulation. Your species has been modified by advanced technology. Lisa nodded slowly. You're saying someone changed us? Yes, and recently, within the last few thousand years. Vexenar turned to face her. Dr. Kane, who modified your species, Lisa, looked confused. I have no idea. This is the first I've heard of any of this. But she knew exactly who had modified humanity. The same aliens who had crashed in New Mexico in 1947, not Zephrians, but their ancient enemies. The ones who had given humanity the tools to prepare for this exact moment. General Korthovel received the biology report in his command. Center aboard the Eternal Dawn. He read it 3 times before calling an emergency meeting with his senior. Staff, gentlemen, he announced. We have a problem.
The humans are not what they appear to be.
His officers looked confused.
Tell her.
They surrendered without significant resistance, said his tactical officer. They are cooperating with processing procedures. That's exactly the problem, Korthovel said. In 17 previous conquests, we have never encountered a species that adapted this quickly to occupation. Most species show signs of despair, depression, and social collapse. The humans show none of these symptoms. Perhaps they're simply more resilient, suggested his communications officer. Or perhaps they are planning something, Korthovel replied. I want increased security at all processing centers. Double the guard rotations. Begin deep scans of all human facilities. Order went out across the alien fleet. Security measures that had never been necessary before were suddenly being implemented. The aliens were beginning to realize that something was wrong. Dr. Peter Clark received the alert through his hidden communication device while he was working in the New York Processing Center. The aliens were increasing security. They were becoming suspicious. It was time to accelerate the plan. Attention all resistance cells, he whispered into his device. The aliens are getting nervous. We may need to move to Phase 3 early. The response came back immediately from Maya Johnson in Chicago. All cells report ready. Can begin the operation within 6 hours. Peter smiled. 6 hours was much sooner than planned, but humanity had been preparing for this moment for 70 years. They were ready. Meanwhile, the aliens were making other disturbing discoveries. Their atmospheric processors, which were supposed to convert Earth's air to something breathable for Zephrians, were producing the wrong chemical mixture. Instead of creating clean air, they were generating compounds that were slowly poisoning the alien workforce. Sir, reported the chief engineer to General Korthovel, we're losing personnel at an alarming rate. The atmospheric processors are malfunctioning. How many casualties? Korthovel asked. 43 dead in the last week. Another 100 showing symptoms of respiratory failure. Korthovel studied the reports. The atmospheric processors were based on proven technology. It had worked perfectly on 17 other worlds. There was no reason they should be failing now. Could this be sabotage? He asked. We found no evidence of tampering, the engineer replied. The humans have been fully cooperative with maintenance procedures. But Dr. Peter Clark had been more than cooperative. He had been helpful. Every time the aliens asked for assistance with their equipment, he had eagerly provided it. Every modification he suggested had been designed to slowly poison the alien workforce. While appearing to improve efficiency, Colonel Amy Rodriguez was having similar success aboard the alien command ship. The microscopic devices she had brought with her were now integrated into the ship's computer systems. Every day she provided the aliens with more information about human society, and every day more of their systems came under human control. Colonel Rodriguez, said General Korthovel during one of their daily briefings, we need updated population data for the southern continents. Of course, General Amy replied. I'll have my people prepare the information. The information Amy provided was carefully crafted. It showed human population centers where the aliens expected to find them. It identified resource deposits that would keep the aliens busy for months. It painted a picture of a world that was exactly what the aliens wanted to see. But the real human population was hidden in underground facilities that the aliens couldn't detect. The real resource extraction was happening in locations the aliens didn't know existed. And the real military forces were positioned in places the aliens would never think to look. Lieutenant Commander Steve Parker was making his daily supply run to the Los Angeles Processing Center when he noticed increased alien security. More guards at the checkpoints. More detailed inspections of cargo. The aliens were definitely getting nervous. Cargo inspection will take longer today, announced the alien guard. New security protocols. Steve nodded patiently. No problem. I understand you have to be careful. The aliens searched his ship thoroughly, but they found nothing suspicious. They couldn't detect the microscopic weapons hidden in the medical supplies. They couldn't identify the communication devices disguised as food containers. They couldn't recognize the explosive compounds that had been chemically bonded to harmless materials. Everything appears to be in order, the guard finally announced. You may proceed. Steve guided his ship to the unloading area where Linda Hayes was waiting with her work crew. She had been working in the processing center for 4 weeks now, and the aliens trusted her completely. How are the new security measures affecting operations? Steve asked quietly. Making things more difficult, Linda replied. But not impossible. We're still on schedule. Linda had used her time in the processing center wisely. She had identified every critical system in the facility. She had mapped every escape route. She had even convinced some of the alien guards to consider her a friend. What the aliens didn't know was that Linda's medical condition that required daily medication was actually a cover story. The pills she took every day contained microscopic transmitters that were now spread throughout the alien facility. When the time came, those transmitters would guide precision strikes that would destroy the entire complex, Captain. Ryan Webb watched the alien fleet from his position aboard the Invisible Defiance. His crew had noticed the increased security measures, but they assumed it was just normal military caution. Captain reported his sensor officer. The aliens are running more frequent patrols. They're scanning for ships that might be hiding in the asteroid belt. Interesting, Ryan said. They're getting paranoid. What his crew didn't know was that Ryan had been expecting this development. The microscopic devices his drones had attached to the alien ships had been programmed to activate if the aliens began intensive security sweeps. Those devices were now slowly corrupting the alien sensor systems, making them see threats that didn't exist while missing the real dangers. Admiral Jack Morrison sat in his command center, watching reports come in from around the world. The aliens were increasing security everywhere. They were becoming suspicious of human cooperation. They were starting to realize that something was very wrong. Sir, reported Lieutenant Kate Williams, we're receiving the activation codes from all resistance cells. Everyone is ready to proceed. Morrison nodded. The moment they had all been waiting for was finally arriving. 70 years of planning were about to pay off. Send the message, he ordered. Tell all cells to prepare for Operation Start. We begin in 12 hours. The message went out through quantum communication channels that the aliens couldn't detect. Within minutes, every human on Earth knew that the waiting was over. The greatest deception in human history was about to be revealed, the aliens thought. They had conquered Earth. They were about to discover that they had simply walked into the most sophisticated trap ever constructed. The hunters were about to become the hunted. The countdown reached 0 at exactly midnight Greenwich Mean Time. Admiral Jack Morrison pressed the activation button in his command center, sending the signal that would change everything. Around the world, 70 years of preparation came to life in a single moment. All systems activated, reported Lieutenant Kate Williams. The masquerade is over. Morrison watched his screens as hidden installations across the planet revealed themselves. What the aliens had thought were power plants suddenly showed their true nature as massive electromagnetic pulse generators. Mining facilities that had operated for decades opened up to reveal particle beam weapons. Industrial complexes transformed into orbital defense platforms. Sir, we're receiving confirmation from all continental grids, Kate announced. Europe, Asia, Africa, Australia, and South America all report full activation. Morrison nodded grimly. Send the message to all human personnel. Operation Payback has begun. The first sign of trouble came to the aliens when their communications went dead. Every satellite they had deployed around Earth suddenly stopped responding. Their orbital platforms went dark. Fleet found itself cut off from ground operations. Sir, we've lost contact with all surface facilities, reported the communications officer on the Eternal Dawn. General Korthavel stood frozen for a moment. In 17 conquests, Communications had never failed completely. Switch to backup. Frequencies. Use emergency protocols. Sir, the backup systems are also down. We're receiving massive electromagnetic interference from the planet's surface. Down on Earth, the electromagnetic pulse generators were doing their job perfectly. The aliens' communication systems, designed for normal space operations, couldn't handle the coordinated interference from an entire planet. Colonel Amy Rodriguez felt the ship shudder round her as the Eternal Dawn systems began to malfunction. The microscopic devices she had been planting for weeks were finally activating. Every computer system on the ship was being corrupted from within. "What's happening?" she asked General Corthovel, maintaining her active confusion. "System malfunction," Corthovel replied, but his voice showed uncertainty. This should not be possible. Amy watched as alien crew members ran frantically through the corridors, trying to restore systems that were failing faster than they could repair them. The nanoscale weapons had been programmed to activate simultaneously across the entire fleet. Every alien ship was experiencing the same cascade of failures. General Amy said carefully, "Perhaps I should return to my quarters until this is resolved." "No," Corthovel said firmly. "You will remain here. We may need information about human technology." Amy nodded obediently, but inside she was counting down the minutes until the next phase began. The aliens were about to discover that human technology was far more advanced than they had ever imagined in the Los Angeles Processing Center. Linda Hayes was putting on her normal work clothes when the lights went out. Emergency power kicked in a moment later, bathing everything in red light. Around her, alien guards were shouting orders in their own language. "What's happening?" asked another human worker, playing his role perfectly. "I don't know," Linda replied. "Maybe it's just a power failure." But Linda knew exactly what was happening. The microscopic transmitters she had spread throughout the facility were now active. They were sending precise targeting information to weapon systems hidden beneath the city. In 15 minutes, those weapons would fire. "All humans return to your quarters immediately," announced an alien guard. "This is a security alert." Linda walked calmly toward the residential area, but instead of going to her room, she slipped into a maintenance corridor. She had memorized every passage in the facility. Now it was time to use that knowledge. She made her way to the facilities. Main power core, where she had hidden the real surprise. Not just transmitters, but actual explosives that had been disguised as medical equipment for weeks. When the orbital strikes began, the facility would be destroyed from both above and below. Dr. Peter Clark was in the New York Processing Center when the alarms began blaring. The atmospheric processors that had been slowly poisoning the alien workforce suddenly accelerated their deadly work. The chemical compounds he had been introducing into their systems were now activated by signals from orbit. "Dr. Clark, we need your help," said Vexinar, the alien scientist. "Our atmospheric systems are failing catastrophically." "Of course," Peter replied. "Let me examine the equipment." Peter looked at the readouts, knowing exactly what he would find. Atmospheric processors were now producing compounds that were lethal to Zephrian biology. The aliens who had been working in the facility were already showing signs of severe poisoning. "I think I see the problem," Peter said. "Your processors are reacting to Earth's unique atmospheric composition. The chemical interactions are more complex than your models predicted." "Can you fix it?" Vexinar asked desperately. "I can try," Peter said, "but I'll need access to your main atmospheric control systems." Vexinar led him to the control room, where Peter quickly began entering. New commands. To the aliens, it looked like he was trying to fix the problem. In reality, he was accelerating the poisoning process and ensuring that every alien in the facility would be dead within hours. Lieutenant. Commander Steve Parker was making his final supply run when the alien fleet began to panic. He could hear the confusion in their radio transmissions as ship after ship reported system failures. Human transport vessel, returned to base immediately, ordered an alien controller. "We are implementing emergency protocols."
Understood, Steve.
Replied, returning to base. But instead of returning to the alien processing center, Steve guided his ship toward a predetermined rendezvous point. His cargo holds were empty now. The real supplies had been delivered weeks ago, hidden in previous shipments. Today's cargo had been something entirely different. Base, this is Parker, he said into his communicator. Package delivered. All targets have been marked. Confirmed, Parker, came the reply. Clear the area. Fireworks begin in 10 minutes. Steve pushed his ship's engines to maximum power, racing away from the alien fleet.
Ow.
Behind him, the microscopic devices he had been planting on alien ships for weeks were now active. Every vessel in the fleet was compromised from within, Captain. Ryan Webb watched the alien fleet's panic from his position aboard the invisible Defiance. His crew was amazed by the sudden chaos among the aliens. Captain, their entire fleet is experiencing simultaneous system failures, reported his sensor officer. I've never seen anything like this. Most unusual, Ryan agreed. Continue monitoring. What his crew didn't know was that Ryan had been expecting this moment. The devices his drones had attached to the alien ships were now revealed as sophisticated weapons. Every alien vessel was being attacked by its own systems. Sir, we're detecting massive energy buildups across the Earth's surface, reported his weapons officer. It looks like some kind of planetary defense grid. Ryan smiled. Indeed it does. I think we're about to witness something remarkable. First orbital strike came from a facility hidden beneath the Rocky Mountains. Particle beam lance reached out from Earth's surface and struck the alien mothership at the center of the fleet. The beam cut through the ship's shields like they didn't exist, opening a hole that ran from bow to stern. My God, whispered Ryan's sensor officer. That's impossible. No planetary weapon should be able to penetrate fleet-grade shields. Unless, Ryan said quietly, those shields had been sabotaged from within. The strike was the signal for humanity's real military to reveal itself. Across the solar system, ships that had been hidden in asteroid fields and behind moons suddenly appeared. The human fleet was 5 times larger than the aliens had calculated. Sir, we're detecting over 300 human vessels, reported the tactical officer. They were completely hidden from our sensors. Ryan nodded. Impressive stealth technology. It's almost like they've been preparing for this exact scenario. The battle began in earnest as humanity's hidden weapons opened fire. The aliens found themselves caught between orbital strikes from the planet below and fleet attacks from ships that had appeared from nowhere. Their own vessels were crippled by internal sabotage and couldn't respond effectively. Maya Johnson emerged from her hiding place in the Chicago processing center as the facility's alien guards collapsed from the poisoned atmosphere around her. Thousands of other humans were also revealing their true nature. The docile prisoners were actually trained soldiers who had been waiting for this moment. All units, this is command, came the voice through her communicator. The aliens are in full retreat. Begin Phase 2 of the operation. Maya smiled as she picked up an alien weapon from a fallen guard. Phase 2 meant hunting down any aliens who tried to escape. After 17 conquered worlds, the Zephrians were finally going to learn what it felt like to be the prey. The counterattack had begun. Humanity's 70-year deception was complete. The aliens had come expecting to conquer a primitive world, but they had instead walked into the most sophisticated trap in galactic history. General Corthovel stood on the bridge of the dying Eternal Dawn, watching his fleet burn around him. Half of his ships were already destroyed. The other half were crippled and drifting helplessly through space. In 30 years of military service, he had never seen such a complete disaster. Sir, we've lost contact with 41 ships, reported his communications officer. The remaining vessels are requesting permission to retreat. Retreat where? Corthovel demanded. Our hyperspace engines are offline. Our weapons are dead. These humans have turned our own technology against us. Through the main view screen, he could see Earth glowing with the light of 1,000 weapon emplacements. The planet that had seemed so peaceful and defenseless was revealed as a heavily fortified world he had ever encountered. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the planet, the communications officer announced. Put it through. The image of President Helen Cross appeared on the screen. She no longer looked like a frightened leader begging for mercy. Her expression was cold and determined. General Corthovel, she said, I am President Cross of the United Earth Government. I believe it's time we had an honest conversation. You deceived us, Corthavel said. This entire surrender was a lie. Yes, it was, Helen replied without shame. Just like your promises of peaceful relocation were lies. We've studied your methods, General. We know what happened to the 17 worlds you conquered before us. Corthavel felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. What do you want? I want you to understand something very important, Helen said. Earth was never a primitive world waiting to be conquered. We have been preparing for your arrival. For 70 years, every human you captured was a volunteer. Every facility you occupied was a trap. Every piece of technology you studied was designed to deceive you. Colonel Amy Rodriguez appeared beside the president on the screen. She was no longer wearing the simple military uniform of a defeated officer. Instead, she wore the insignia of Earth Special Operations Command. Hello, General, Amy said. I thought you might want to know that your ship's computer systems are now under human control. In fact, they have been for the past 2 weeks. Corthavel turned to his crew. Is this true? His chief engineer checked his instruments and went, Pale, sir. She's right. All our primary systems are responding to external commands. We have no control over our own ship. On the screen, President Cross continued speaking. Your species has a choice, General. You can surrender unconditionally and face trial for your crimes against 17 worlds. Or you can attempt to escape and be hunted down like the war criminals you are. We demand safe passage back to Zephrian space, Corthavel said desperately. We're in no position to demand anything, Helen replied. But I'll tell you what we're prepared to offer. Complete surrender, full cooperation with our investigation of your crimes, and testimony against your superiors in the Zephrian Empire. In exchange, we'll allow your surviving crew members to live, and if we refuse, Helen's expression grew even colder, then you'll join the rest of your fleet in becoming space debris. Dr. Lisa Kane stood in the ruins of the alien research facility in Washington, D.C. around her. Zephrian scientists lay dead from the biological weapon she had released. The pathogen was specifically designed to target alien biology while leaving. Humans completely unharmed. Dr. Kane, this is Command, came the voice through her communicator. Status report. Facility secured, Lisa replied. All alien personnel eliminated. We have complete access to their research data. Excellent. What did you find? Lisa looked at the alien computers that were now displaying information in perfect English. They have detailed records of all 17 worlds they've conquered. Population numbers, resource extraction data, locations of survivors. Everything we need to plan rescue operations. Understood. Prepare that data for immediate transmission to Fleet Command. Lisa smiled as she began copying the alien files. The Zephrians had kept meticulous records of their crimes. Now those same records would be used to bring justice to the survivors of their previous conquests. Lieutenant. Commander Steve Parker guided his ship through the wreckage of the alien fleet searching for survivors. It's not to rescue them, but to prevent any from escaping. His orders were clear. No alien ship would leave this solar system. Contact bearing 270, reported his sensor officer. Looks like a damaged alien frigate trying to reach the edge of the system. Intercept course, Steve ordered. Prepare boarding teams. The alien ship was drifting helplessly, its engines destroyed by internal sabotage. Steve's team boarded without resistance and found the crew huddled in the emergency shelters. We surrender, said the alien captain through a translation device. Please, we only followed orders. Tell that to the 17 worlds you helped destroy, Steve replied. Going back to Earth to stand trial. Captain Ryan Webb finally revealed the defiance to his crew as they moved to secure the last functional alien vessel. His officers stared in amazement as human ships appeared from every direction. Captain, where did all these ships come from? Asked his weapons officer. They've been here all along, Ryan explained. Hidden in the asteroid belt on the dark side of the moon, even in Earth's own orbit, using advanced stealth technology. The aliens never had a chance. But how did we develop such advanced technology, the officer asked. Ryan smiled. The same way we knew the aliens were coming in the first place. We had help. Help from who? From the aliens' ancient enemies? The ones who crashed in New Mexico in 1947? They gave us the tools we needed to prepare for this day. Maya Johnson stood in the center of Chicago, watching the last alien processing center burn. Around her, thousands of humans who had pretended to be prisoners were now revealing their true identities as soldiers, scientists, and intelligence operatives. All processing centers have been secured, she reported to command. Total alien casualties are estimated at 100%. Confirmed. Maya, excellent work. How many humans did we lose? Maya checked her reports. Fewer than 300 casualties across all operations. Aliens never realized they were fighting trained soldiers instead of helpless civilians. Outstanding. Begin Phase 3. Start preparing the captured alien ships for our own use. Maya looked up at the sky, where the wreckage of the alien fleet was still visible as burning streaks of light. Soon, those same ships would carry human crews to the 17 worlds the aliens had conquered. The hunters had become the hunted, and now it was time for justice. Admiral Jack Morrison received the final reports in his command center. The battle was over. Not a single alien ship had escaped. The entire Zephrian invasion force had been captured or destroyed. Sir, we're receiving surrender requests from the surviving alien commanders, reported Lieutenant Kate Williams. Accept their surrenders, Morrison ordered. Prepare secure facilities for prisoner processing. We have a lot of questions to ask them. What about the Zephrian Empire, sir? They'll eventually send another fleet when this one doesn't return. Morrison smiled grimly. Let them come. By the time they arrive, we'll be ready for them too. We won't be fighting from Earth anymore. He turned to look at the main display, which showed captured alien ships being prepared for human crews. Send a message to the Zephrian Empire using their own communication systems. Tell them what happened. Here, tell them that Earth remembers what they did to 17 worlds. Tell them that humanity is coming. President Helen Cross addressed the world from the Oval Office 12 hours after the battle ended. Behind her, through the window, people could see the lights of celebration in the streets. My fellow humans, she began, today we have won the greatest victory in our species' history. Alien invasion force that came to enslave our world has been completely destroyed. Not a single enemy ship escaped. She paused to let the cheers from outside die down. But our work is not finished. We have learned that these aliens have conquered 17 other worlds before ours. Billions of innocent beings are enslaved. In their empire, we cannot stand by and allow this to continue. Therefore, I am announcing the formation of the Human Liberation Fleet, using captured alien technology and our own advanced systems. We will carry the fight to the Zephrian Empire. We will free every world they have conquered. We will bring justice to every war criminal and their government. The aliens came to Earth seeking to colonize our world. Instead, they have given us the tools and the motivation to colonize theirs. They wanted to make humanity extinct. Instead, they have made us stronger than we ever imagined possible. Helen looked directly into the camera. To any aliens who might be listening to this broadcast, Earth remembers. Earth does not forgive, and Earth is coming for you. The message was transmitted across the galaxy using alien communication systems. Within weeks, it would reach the Zephrian homeworld and 17 conquered planets. The hunters who had preyed on innocent species for centuries were about to learn what it meant to be hunted by humanity. The war was over, or the real war was just beginning.